No collusion. No obstruction. He's a leaker.
Just 1 week after the blockbuster testimony of former FBI Director James Comey, the Attorney General set to go to the Hill on Tuesday.
The FBI director gave this information to a third party to leak. So I think that James Comey has serious legal exposure.
Do you have illusions of grandeur? You spend a lot of time talking about your emotions.
Makes me mildly nauseous. That gave me a queasy feel. That's why I was so uneasy. I was so stunned.
Were your feelings hurt, Jim? Man, are you dramatic.
3 Army Rangers shot and killed in Afghanistan, the same area where the military dropped the so-called mother of all bombs.
When heroes fall, Americans grieve. Our armed forces are in the fight. They're taking the fight to terrorists on our terms, on their soil.
Anti-Sharia law marches being held in some 24 cities nationwide.
Are you here to protest against Islam?
It's not against Islam. It's against Sharia law.
Before this summer, job one, we will repeal and replace Obamacare.
Obamacare is dead. The only people who won't admit that are the Democrats, who are in the way of better health care.
With our doctor, Nicole Saphier.
Which was a contest that I won, by the way.
You did. We did Summer Myths, True or False. Is drinking out of a garden hose safe? And she said, no, it actually has bacteria and
I said
lead.
it's totally safe.
That's right, and I was accurate. Correct?
And you said, I would never let my kids do that. I wouldn't let them drink out of...
For the record, I never said that I don't let my children do it, but I knew the answer that it is considered by doctors unsafe.
Well,
and
really.
yet the rest of America has been drinking out of a garden hose forever.
Forever. So
I did too, but you should see the tweets.
And the emails. And Kurt wrote us an email this morning. He said, your segment, your safety segment, was full of political correctness.
Amen.
I've been eating barbecue and drinking out of a garden hose for 74 years, and I'm in the best health of my entire life.
You did not have a helicopter bomb.
Right.
And as I said, literally yesterday, I grilled out and drank out of a garden hose.
To be clear, the grilling out part is the doctor said that can be problematic.
Lead.
So
anyway,
America, everything in small doses.
Everything
right?
is dangerous this summer.
Just
stay inside. Stay inside, lock your doors, and come back in September.
Just for all of your beverages, don't drink out of a garden hose all day.
Or just go get a glass of water in the kitchen.
So keep the tweets coming if you don't mind. We love it.
Yeah,
we're going to talk some politics because we've got a lot to get to this morning because actually some news overnight. And Attorney General Jeff Sessions, whose name kept coming up during the James Comey testimony, we kept hearing from James Comey on his side of this whole story.
Just one of the many people Comey was throwing under the bus.
Saying, look, I wouldn't talk to him. I knew that he was probably biased. I wasn't going to talk to him because he was going to need to recuse himself.
He wasn't supposed to leave the room. This is Comey in the testimony saying he shouldn't have left the room when the president wanted to meet with me to talk about General Flynn. And so it was Sessions. Well, Sessions came out last night with a letter saying, I'm willing to testify in front of that very same committee. And he will be testifying on Tuesday of this upcoming week.
He was already busy. He was already going to be heard somewhere else this week. And he's not canceled those plans. He's sending someone else in his place to appear here to defend himself and what came out of that. Here was his response in a letter last night. He issued this: in light of reports regarding Mr. Comey's recent testimony before the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, it is important that I have an opportunity to address these matters in the appropriate forum.
Well, sworn testimony is an appropriate forum.
Yeah. So, I mean, going after James Comey, it seems like the Trump administration, that's the strategy. Go after James Comey. And Donald Trump Jr. last night on Justice with Judge Janine talking about James Comey. Take a listen how it's affected the family.
When I see what's going on right now, when I see what went on for 10 months with the Russia nonsense and the smear, and then we see what happens on Thursday, it's like, give me a break. I mean, they're literally spent 10 months chasing a rabbit down a hole with essentially the sole purpose to try to take down my father. I think it's clear that, you know, everything that went on in the Comey testimony was basically ridiculous. I think he's proven himself to be a liar in all of this. I think he's proven himself to be a dishonest man of bad character.
Amen. They have no option but to fight back. This guy has proven himself and James Comey to be a leaker. We played in previous hours, and we'll do it again, examples of how the same reporter at the New York Times was releasing the same stories that all make Comey look good, and he's proven himself to be a leaker. He could have been a king leaker and the source of that all along to make the president look bad, yet it never leaked that President Trump wasn't under investigation, which was a fact. You know, and we don't talk enough about this. On May 3rd, James Comey testified under oath that he said he never was asked to end an investigation for political reasons. Yet we saw, when the lights were on just a couple of days ago, him change his tune. If you're in the White House, if you're the president, you believe this Russia stuff is nonsense, because it is. why would you not fight back? You've had someone in the state working against you. You fired him because you had the right to, and now they're going to keep counterpunching, as they should.
And Don Jr., as you saw, his family coming out swinging in defense of him. Last night at Judge Jimmy, and I wonder what the family makes of this, because this is a Shakespeare in the Park. Many of you heard of this. As taxpayer funded, we should point out. But they are depicting the assassination of President Trump. They don't say this is the president, but he looks like him, he acts like him, he dresses like him, and he's in a suit. It's got corporate sponsors as well. Right now, many of them are saying that they're standing by this because it is art, but the official opening is on Monday night. We'll see where some of these sponsors go.
Right, so we've been watching the sponsors this morning, because a lot of times, you know, you throw money at something, you're supporting the public theater in Central Park, and probably Bank of America, Delta Airlines, New York Times, American Express. They're not vetting the content of each play. They're just supporting art. Families come out and watch this in Central Park. Well, this morning, Delta has actually been pretty proactive about this. They've been on Twitter early this morning saying, while Delta is a longtime sponsor of the highly respected public theater, we do not condone this interpretation of Julius Caesar at this summer's Free Shakespeare in the Park.
And here's part of the reason why they shouldn't condone it. I don't know if we can put the photo back up. So they don't say that it's President Trump. It's a play about Julius Caesar. But it's clear from the hair to the tie to the jacket, they are trying to depict him. And a detail was just brought to my attention. The people assassinating him in this photo, women, all minorities, which feeds into the narrative that he's anti-women and anti-minority. And it's this idea that, well, now they're getting their revenge on President Trump. Think about what they've had to deal with, from Kathy Griffin to blowing up the White House from Madonna, now a publicly funded play in Central Park, their own backyard, depicting, you know, they don't say it's Trump, but depicting his assassination. Well, I mean, where does it stop?
Yeah.
So many people have been writing in on this, even to us, about this, and putting Delta or an American Express on the Twitter handle. I just looked at Delta's account, and they're responding to everyone who has strong feelings on this. We do not condone this interpretation of Julius Caesar at the Summers, basically in line with what you just read that they issued early this morning. But they are taking the time to respond to everyone who is concerned about what they're seeing here.
Listen, I love Delta. I fly them almost every single week. It's a great corporation. But if you're funding this and your name's attached to it, you might want to think about it.
Maybe switch it up a little bit. We have some viewers write in this morning. Beverly writes this should be as bad as burning our flag.
And Gayleen says, I don't know whether to be sick or sad. To depict the assassination of our president is just plain wrong.
That's what Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent on our show earlier, said this morning. He said, you know, it creates, you get like copycat people. It creates a sense, you know, that maybe I can go out and do something like this. It's a bad idea regardless of what party, whoever
By the way,
support.
he said that as a former Secret Service agent, his concern on that.
Well, and yesterday in the program, on another story, we covered the fact that Democrats seem to, you know, they found a potty mouth, whether it's Tom Perez, the chairman, or recently Senate Democrat from New York, Kirsten Gillibrand. She was in a speech caught dropping the F-bomb multiple times. Well, oftentimes if a Republican were to do that, the mainstream, the left-wing media would come down on them and say, how dare they? There could be kids listening or watching. Well, instead, the left-stream media had a different reaction to the senator. Take a listen.
Yeah, here's her yesterday. Take a listen.
Has he kept any of these promises? No. No. Instead, sorry, I understand this is a younger audience. It's okay. Fundamentally, if we are not helping people, we should go home.
All right, so here's how the Washington Post responded to this. Quote, she talked about having anxiety dreams shortly after the inauguration and stressing over not responding to a friend's daughter who tried to sell her Girl Scout cookies. Oh, my God, I've got to order those cookies.
So this is an article by the Washington Post basically saying, don't worry about this. Senator Gillibrand is a swearer, a frequent swearer. So they went through the article, all the times her friends and others say she swears. She swears a lot.
She's from New York.
Because the criticism of this is it looks totally contrived. It was like a line she was giving on the campaign trail that looked tough.
So that moment yesterday was just one of those times, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want your Girl Scout cookies.
Maybe she doesn't have a swearing problem. And I think every time we do have to order stuff like for school, you're like, oh, I got to order those effing cookies. Right?
But the bigger question is this effective? You know, Tom Perez, which heads up the party, he has used this tactic many, many times. And people have taken notice. But to see Kirsten Gillibrand.
But look at the depths to which the Washington Post will say, no. She swears a lot. It's just common parlance. I mean, it's defensive mechanisms. This is why Steve Bannon calls them the opposition party.
Thank you, Washington
Post. They will do whatever they can. Yeah, they're really nailing it.
Really excellent journalism. They dug into her swearing past.
All right, well, turning to your headlines this morning, starting with this Fox News alert. 3 Army Rangers shot and killed in Afghanistan. One other Ranger was wounded, the gunman, an Afghan soldier. Sean Parnell, a retired U.S. Army Ranger, was attacked in the same area almost 11 years ago to the day. Earlier on Fox and Friends, he described working side by side with the Afghan army as complicated.
There's not a whole heck of a lot with regards to vetting that you can do. You just have to keep an extra eye on them at the ground level. And really, working with the Afghans, 99% of the time, they're great, but it's just part of the war.
The attack happened in the same area where the U.S. dropped the mother of all bombs back in April, wiping out an ISIS cave complex. Well, 3 men are in custody in Germany this morning after people reportedly overheard them talking about a bomb. What's worse is this all happening while on a flight from Slovenia to London. Fellow passengers notified the crew, forcing the plane to make an emergency landing in Cologne, Germany. Police seizing a backpack belonging to one of the men, detonating the bag outside the aircraft. No word on what was inside. Well, German Chancellor Angela Merkel slamming President Trump and his border wall while speaking yesterday in Mexico. Merkel addressing an immigration in a panel saying, quote, obviously the main reason for people leaving must be addressed on site first, which means that putting up walls and cutting oneself off will not solve the problem. The German leader is in Mexico attending a business event with the country's president. And television icon Adam West, TV's original Batman, has passed away.
Holy Globot! What's going on? The fiends, they've converted this buoy into a gigantic magnet. It's got us by the metallic objects in our utility belts.
West played the Caped Crusader for all 3 seasons of the late 1960s show. He continued to appear in TV programs and movies after the show ended. He died Friday after a brief battle with leukemia. Tributes now pouring in from the entertainment world this morning. Julie Newmar, who played Catwoman alongside Adam West Batman, says, I will miss him in the physical world and savor him always in the world of imagination and creativity. And Val Kilmer, who played Batman in Batman Forever, tweeting, ah, dear Adam West, he was always so kind when we met. A real gent. Once when I was a kid, we found ourselves in front of the Batmobile. I got in. Adam West was 88 years old.
He loved playing Batman, too.
All right, those are your headlines this morning.
All right. Well, now that Attorney General Sessions is ready to testify, where does the Russia probe, the so-called Russia probe, go from here? Chris Wallace here to discuss next.
Plus, are you feeling selfish today? Don't worry, just blame the hot weather. We've got science to back it up. I agree. I felt a little selfish yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to have to question that.
And my wife called me out on it. She said, you know, it's not all about you.
That's just everyday, Clayton.
Right, that's just blame the weather.
Last night, Attorney General Sessions responding to Comey's hearing and exchange with Senator Manchin regarding Russia-related matters. In light of reports regarding Mr. Comey's recent testimony before the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, it is important that I have an opportunity to address these matters in the appropriate forum.
Well, Sessions will now testify on Tuesday. So where does the Russian probe go from here? Here to weigh in this morning is anchor of Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace. Chris, good to see you this morning.
Hey, Chris.
Good to be with you guys.
So you had a lot of people on the left, you know, even like people like Chris Matthews, saying he thought that the collusion side of the story looked like it imploded this week. What's your sense of it? Where does that part of the story go from here?
Well, we don't know. Obviously, there's still more to see. There is no hard evidence of any collusion so far, and the FBI has been looking at this for about 11 months, so it does raise some questions if there's any there. But we'll find out a good deal from James Comey. First of all, he'll be asked about what James Comey, well, from Jeff Sessions, about what James Comey had to say. Remember, Comey told the story about how the president kicked everybody, including Sessions, out of the Oval Office to have that meeting with Comey, where he allegedly told him to go easy on Michael Flynn. We also have the Comey testimony that after that he said to Sessions, please don't ever leave me alone with the president. It'll be interesting to hear what Sessions has to say about that. There's also the question of Sessions' recusal. Remember, he said, I'm not going to have anything to do with the Russia investigation, and yet he clearly was involved in firing the man, James Comey, who was the head of the Russia investigation. So we'll hear about that. And then there's also this kind of odd question about whether or not there was another still unreported meeting between Sessions and the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak. maybe we'll get some clarity on that as well. This won't be the end of the investigation, but it'll certainly be another step forward.
So, Chris, rather, little evidence has been shown that there's collusion with Russia, but whether it was the unmasking or the new revelations about Loretta Lynch pressuring Comey, or now that we know that Comey himself was a leaker potentially multiple times, could the investigation or the discussion move in those directions instead of the Russia investigation, which has proven to be pretty much a nothing burger?
Well, I certainly wouldn't say it's a nothing burger. I think we have to see where it goes. Among other things, we still haven't heard from Michael Flynn, and he's one of the key figures in all of this. He was the one who had the most contacts with Russia. He's the one who got paid by Russia. I certainly would like to hear from him before I say it's over. But you're quite right. There are other elements. There was some collateral damage that came out of Comey's testimony. His comments about Loretta Lynch saying, seemingly in concert with the Clinton campaign, let's not call this an investigation, and also the question of leaks, at least one of them, Comey says he was involved in. So I agree. That's part of the investigation. We ought to see all of where it goes.
All right, Chris, what do you have coming up on Fox News Sunday?
Well, we're going to be talking to one of the members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Jack Reed, who will be hearing from Jeff Sessions on Tuesday. Be interesting to hear what he wants to hear from the Attorney General. And we're also going to talk to the chair of the Republican Party, Ronna McDaniel. They got very aggressive, very involved in defending the president against Comey this week, set up a war room. Set up a big league truth hashtag, so it'll be interesting to talk to her about the continuing battle in this investigation.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Chris Wallace, Fox News Sunday. Check your local listings. Chris, great to see you.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, guys.
Coming up here on the show, it's the new Covfefe. Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders setting the internet on fire with this bizarre tweet.
It's a lot of stoplights.
I love the anchor and the stoplights.
I love this story. And do you love hosting backyard parties but don't have the space for it? We've got you covered with 4 ways to punch up your patio on a budget. Don't drink from the garden hose.
I get from Sandra's kids.
Yeah, thanks for waking up with us on this Sunday morning. Some quick headlines for you. The Puerto Rican Day Parade starting in about 3 hours in New York City, and there are still plans to honor the leader of a terror group. Oscar Rivera Lopez's terror group claimed responsibility for more than 100 bombings across the U.S. And in Puerto Rico today, voters heading to the polls deciding whether they want their struggling U.S. territory to become the 51st U.S. state. And Vladimir Putin sending protesters far, far away. Anti-Putin activists are being ordered to steer clear of Moscow's Red Square. Even one group relegated to a forest. And let's go out to Pete and Clayton. They're on the plaza.
Thanks,
doing a little
Sandra.
cooking out. Hey, stay safe out there,
And
guys.
we woke Rick up also.
That's right. He was napping over there on the planter. Summer officially kicks off next week, and summer means it's time to spend your weekends outdoors.
Love it, but if your backyard isn't quite ready for entertaining, we've got you covered.
Yeah, here were some ways to punch up your patio on a budget is home improvement expert and host of today's Homeowner, Danny Lipford. Welcome back, Danny.
Man, I'm glad to be back with you guys.
We love when you're here. This is about as big as my apartment, and I don't have a backyard, so
there's so many budget-friendly ways of creating a nice outdoor entertainment area. Gravel is about as cheap as it gets for a 12 by 12 patio. Materials around $560. So all you do, first of all, you dig all of the grass out from under the area that you want it. Then you put down this landscape fabric. Okay. So this will block out all the weeds. It'll allow it to drain, but you don't have to worry about weeds later on.
This has come a long way from that plastic that it used to be. I'm from Arizona, which is the land of rock yards.
Right.
So.
Yeah, this will last a long time for you here. And once you get it in there, then you grab the hand tamp. Great exercise here for those biceps. And then you just go ahead and pack it all in just like that. You're ready to go. Having a little bit of retainage like this helps. Treated wood works great. Also works really good for a driveway.
All right, what about over here?
Okay, this is really different. We haven't done this very much, but it has worked so well the number of times we've done this on my television show. And this is basically called paver base. You put this down before you put pavers on. Right. But when you put it down and you tamp it and then it gets wet, it gets really solid. And this is a very inexpensive way to go. This is about $450 for a 12 by 12 area. And this is very much like one of the biggest trends we've seen in home improvement is stage remodeling, where you're doing a stage. Later on, you can do some more, and that goes right in to our pavers. So once you have your base down, then you can come back with the sand, and this is readily available in bags from Pavestone. You put it down, tamp it, then they have a variety of pavers that you can create your own patio. And the thing about it depends on your budget and your time that you have, that you can do a 12 by 12 patio, later add another 12 by 12. You can fill up the whole backyard if you want, but this is a very inexpensive way to go. Now the 12 by 12 area, you're up to around $1,560.
If you want to get a little more creative, this Quikrete, how do you do this?
Well, look at this. This is called Walkmaker, and there's a variety of different styles that are available here. So basically, you're just putting this down. Now, this has some stain in it. This stain is really cool that you can make it just about any color you want. This color is buff colored, and you can take one of these, and within minutes, you're able to pull it right up, and you can keep making it go.
So it's all concrete, you're just making it...
That's all you're doing, individual pieces like
something
this.
I could maybe actually kind of do.
Right.
These things look easier than they are. They really do.
And this is one that we've just poured just a few minutes ago, and this is called a running bond pattern that simulates brick. Now, there again, I could have stained this red color, and it would be very hard for you to tell that it was not brick. But then once you do this, then you take your trowel and you bump it a little bit like this to loosen it up. Then you're able just to lift it out.
Wow, and I saw you just putting that in there a few minutes ago. Holy smokes.
Now, and then what you're able to do, you don't have to buy a lot of these forms. You just buy 2 of them. They only cost about 18 bucks. And then you can do another pattern there, another one there, and create as big of an area, sidewalk, anything you want.
The great Danny Lipford. Great to see you this morning.
Always good to see you guys.
Great stuff. Great tips.
Thank you.
All right. Sandra, back to you.
Some nice home improvement tips outside. Thank you, guys. Well, you may have heard there was a rash of hateful, racist, anti-Muslim protests happening yesterday. Well, maybe not.
Are you out here protesting against Islam or against Sharia law?
Against Sharia law. I have nothing against Islam.
Pete Hegseth hit the streets to get the real story, to hear from the protesters themselves. That's coming up next. Plus, it's the movie based on the true story of a Marine and her dog. Is Megan Levy worth your money? Kevin McCarthy's review is next.
The clashes erupting into brawls here at home over Islam.
Protesters and counter-protesters squaring off across the country tonight, either against the threat of Islamic law or in defense of Muslim Americans.
Activists say anti-Sharia groups promote a distorted view of Islam.
Well, many in the media portrayed yesterday's nationwide protests against Sharia law as a protest against Islam, but that doesn't paint an accurate picture.
Pete spoke to some of those protesters. Pete?
Yeah, there were protests in 28 cities yesterday. One of them was in Foley Square here in New York City, so we jumped down there to talk to protesters, because oftentimes you get this glaze-over view of why people are doing things. Oh, they must be anti-Muslim, whatever it is. Instead, we just let them speak for themselves, and we walked down and interviewed them. Take a listen.
Today there's a protest going on to protest Sharia law, which is an extreme version of Islam.
I don't think that killing people or mistreating women is a religion.
So you're not out here, are you out here protesting against Islam or against Sharia law?
Against Sharia law. I have nothing against Islam.
I want to make sure that we're aware of everything that Sharia is, everything extremist Islam stands for, and we're aware of the dangers.
Are you here to protest against Islam?
It's not against Islam. It's against Sharia law.
Every radical Islam comes from their law. I mean, do we have to stop that already? America had to be strong about this.
It's not about being against Muslims. It's just being against the ideology of, I guess, murdering homosexuals and treating women as a second-class, maybe under a second-class citizen, just dehumanizing.
Over in Britain, they were just frogs boiling in water, and now they're dead.
Critics will say that you're anti-Muslim. Are you anti-Muslim?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think what needs to happen really is a reformation of the religion from the inside, and I feel like that needs to start with Muslims. So we need Muslims. The fact is that none of these people would want to kick out Muslims from this country. That's not what we're about here. At least that's my understanding of America.
All right, so you got the real story.
Yeah, I found a lot of patriots who were talking about the Constitution had a far more knowledgeable and nuanced view of things than the media paints them. And you heard that right there. There's a big difference between indicting Muslims and talking about the dangers of Sharia law, especially seeing what's happened in Western Europe and some of the problems they've had. If we're not vigilant about it, we could have similar problems.
Or even in England, for crying out loud, women walking down the street being yelled at for wearing a dress.
In certain places, yeah.
All right, thank you for doing that, Pete. All right, well, turning to your headlines this morning, pandemonium. That's how one London first responder is describing the scene following last week's deadly terror attacks.
It was almost pandemonium. You know, people were running. I could see somebody was injured on the floor. At that point, there were still lots and lots of shots ringing out. I didn't know whether they were us, our chaps, or the bad guys.
Those bad guys eventually being shot and killed by police. 8 people were killed, dozens of others hurt in those attacks. An IndyCar race comes to a screeching halt after a gigantic wreck takes out 8 cars.
Oh, there it goes. Oh, no. It's the big one. That's the big one. Big crash. Oh, boy.
One car, as you can see, crashing into another at the Texas Motor Speedway, setting off a chain reaction. It took about a half hour to clear the debris off the track. All of the drivers are okay. The internet going nuts over this tweet from Sarah Huckabee Sanders. It is filled with emojis, including traffic lights and anchors, but no actual words in the entire tweet. Sanders clearing up all the mystery, saying her 3-year-old got a hold of her phone, but the tweet drawing an alarming amount of vitriol and hate. David writing, this is the most coherent statement to come from the Trump administration. Shu Me tweets somewhere in there, she said Trump is a liar. And Misan says, is everyone who works for Donald Trump suffering from dementia? That's not
really
fair.
Really.
Let me just tell you, by the way, there was one other, I guess I skipped. Not feeling so generous lately. Oh, this is the new research that we're reporting to you. I skipped over it. The hotter it gets, the more unlikely it is for someone to help another person out. All right, Clayton, listen, because you're apparently suffering from this.
Yes.
Scientists say these selfish acts are due to people wanting to preserve their own energy when temperatures rise.
Basic nature, I guess.
Rick Reichmuth, who's reporting on the hot weather today. Are we going to see a whole lot of selfish acts today?
We are. Like the eastern 2/3 of the country is baking right now. Baking for this time of year, like everybody's into the 90s. But don't you think it's probably like heat and cold?
Yeah,
like you know, if it's super
enough.
cold or super hot, you got to get where you're going.
You're just kind of annoyed. You're just like, you know. You yeah.
Do you feel less generous when it's hot outside?
Yes.
Yeah. No? You feel generous. You're going to let me play with this, right? Oh, I got it. You're so See? He proved the theory wrong.